Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes Report for the past 24 hours, which means it's like the 3/4 of yesterday and 1/4 of today. Same thing yesterday, same thing today. And again, a lot of frontline changes, like insane amount of frontline changes and very huge ones. So I think it's at the level of yesterday in terms of impact. So let's jump straight into it. The first one is over in the Kharkiv front in Voschansk. You can see this big chunk here. This is this one in the west of Voschansk, stretching all the way to Dvorichna. This is a Russian claim. Russian mapping have claimed that the Russian forces have taken even way more grounds than before and now have entered into Serenikove and also securing north of Prilipka. So this includes this big chunk of they went deep into the moving into the southeast of the city. Basically the entire western part of the city has been taken. Sorry, southwest of the city. So the entire western part of the city is allegedly taken. The forest north of Serenikove and west of Voschansk is also taken. They have entered into Serenikove and entire riverine region north of Prilipka is also allegedly taken. These are insane amount of areas kept taken by the Russians according to the Russian mapping. So this is a Russian claim. So we shall continue to monitor. The advance here is at minimum 700 meters. At the maximum, let's see, at the maximum might be around 2.5 kilometers. I would say the average is probably 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers. Within the city, the advance is probably around 1.4 kilometers. So this is a huge amount of area captured by the Russian forces, and this definitely changes the strategic situation for sure. Then this is part of this recent upscale of Russian advances. They are pushing much harder these past 2 days or 3 days, and part in the larger scale, the more macro scale, is part of the major offensive that's currently happening in multiple front lines. So this is Voschansk. Nearby, over in Taipei, similar situation is happening, but to a smaller scale. Russian forces has taken, so there's this clarification of the front line. They have taken more of Taipei. The Russian Defense Ministry already announced the capture of Taipei, and this chunk here, also along all the roads here, is also allegedly taken by the Russian forces according to the Russian mapping. These are all according to Russian mapping. These are not confirmed captured yet, but these are all Russian claims. Advance is probably around 500 meters. So this is the Taipei, also part of the Kharkiv front. And we move on to the next front line, where the front line change is happening, which is over in this front line at Dvorichna front. This is part of the Milove sector. And before I go there, people was wondering when I first wear this orange shirt, is that they're thinking is related to something. This is an F1 shirt. This is McLaren. You see, this is a McLaren shirt. So yeah, so clearly a lot of people don't watch F1. So anyway, in this sector around Dvorichna, there's also massive frontline changes in this sector here. So we have a geolocation first. So there's a geolocation of Russian forces in 2 different positions. So let me pull this up again. So Russian forces have been geolocated in these two places. So this lead to some frontline change at Ambarne, southeast of Ambarne, as well as at Dvorichna. However, Russian mapping has mapped much bigger than this. Russian mapping have claimed that the Russian forces have advanced all across this sector here, which includes the northern parts of Pokrovsk, all taken allegedly. The whole of Dvorichna is fully secured by the Russian forces. All the areas by the border leading between Dvorichna and Ambarne has all also allegedly been taken by the Russian forces according to the Russian mapping. So the Russian claims is massive, and I think but they are my trusted source, so I think their mapping should be pretty close to reality. So that's the current situation over in this sector. The deepest advance here is 5 kilometers deep. So this is actually a very, very big frontline change. realistically, I think the advance on average is probably around 1.5 kilometers. Yeah, so this is the advances here. Ambarne is around 1.8 kilometers. So yeah, it's around there. So the very, very big frontline changes around here. And at this Dvorichna front, which does change the tactical outlook here quite a bit. But the main action remains largely the same, with the Ukrainians still holding up the corner here, and the Russian forces is trying to take out this sector here. So this remains the same situation. We move on to the next front line is over in the Kupyansk front. So previously we have the updates at Kupyansk city. This time around we have the update at Pischane. So we have geolocation of Russian forces, very, very interesting geolocation right in the middle of Pischane. So this is really far away from the previous front line, is almost 3 kilometers away. So this is a very, very far distance. I've mapped it from the Russian forces that came from the north. So this is what I've mapped. And the Russian mapping have corroborated partly, but their claim is much bigger. They claim that the whole of Pischane has been taken, including the whole of Stepova Novoselivka. So the Russian mapping have mapped it much bigger than this. They mapped that the advance is beyond this. So the Russians advance in this sector, and also the full capture of Stepova Novoselivka by the Russian forces, and all of this forest line along the road leading to Pischane. So I think this is the railway line, if I'm not wrong. So all of these areas allegedly captured by the Russian forces. So these are very, very huge captures. Although only the Pischane, the entry into Pischane is confirmed, the rest is just Russian claims. So still very significant advances in this sector at the Kupyansk front. And this actually does confirm our reports so far, our analysis. And the Russians are continuing this operation. We shall see how this goes. But you can see the strategic situation is now changing in the Kupyansk front. After Stepova Novoselivka, the next is over in Lyman front. So this is Lyman. And over in Torske, south of Torske, according to the Ukrainian mapping, Deep State UA has mapped that the Russian forces have advanced in the forest south of Torske. They also acknowledge that the southern part of Torske has been taken by the Russian forces. So this area here is now confirmed taken by the Russian forces, with the advance on average probably 1.2 kilometers. So this is pretty significant. And with this, we can also confirm the Russians have fully captured Torske, because so far we haven't declared Torske captured because of this part. But with the Ukrainians giving up the claim of this sector here, Torske is now confirmed captured by the Russian forces. So that's the Lyman front. The next we're going to jump all the way to Minokhrad. So over at the Pokrovsk front. So this is Pokrovsk and this is Minokhrad. There is frontline changes in the north of Minokhrad. This is the geolocation. So Russian forces has been geolocated in this position north of Minokhrad, which means that Russian forces continue to make advances in this sector. This is a pretty difficult place to attack for the Russians, because it's so close to the big city of Minokhrad, which means Ukrainian forces could have very strong supply line and reinforcement to try to fight with the Russians, which also reasons why the Russian advance here is pretty slow. The advance is around 300 to 400 meters. So we shall continue to monitor the situation here in this north of Minokhrad, but you can see the flanking operation is ongoing, and they are making advances. So after this, the next is over in Pokrovsk. Previously we have this update over the western part of Pokrovsk. This time around we have another geolocation. This time is deep inside of Pokrovsk. So the geolocation of Russian forces basically near the railway line, deep in the middle of Pokrovsk, and this confirmed Russian presence and advance in this sector here. Previously, this one in the middle of nowhere, where the front line was still pretty far away, that we only put a possible presence, but this time around this is close enough with the advance from the previous known front line around 1.9 kilometers. So we have marked that the Russian forces have advanced through the the wrong color. Advance through the residential area into the center of Pokrovsk. So it looks like the Russians is now really pushing hard into Pokrovsk, and I suspect all these big advances might have some relation to the upcoming possible meeting between Putin and Trump. Maybe Putin want to show Trump that Ukraine's military hopes is hopeless. Zelensky just met Trump, and apparently the meeting was a failure for the Ukrainian side because they didn't manage to get any new support from Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, after talking to Putin, is willing to hold up some of this potential aid that the media is trying to play up, but Trump have never promised anything. So yeah, the phone conversation between Putin and Trump, which was 2.5 hours long, gave Trump some hopes that maybe there can be a deal. But yeah, Zelensky don't want that deal. They only want Russia to declare to surrender and to give up everything back to the Ukrainians, which is never going to happen. So this impasse is going to continue. I don't think there's anything serious or big is going to happen unless the Ukraine surrender, basically give up the land that have been captured by the Russian forces. After Pokrovsk, the next frontline change is at Vishneve over in the Komar front. So there's two frontline changes in this sector here. How the hell is this one? I have pulled this border so many times here. Why the hell is not moving? So every time I refresh, it's just like disappears. Okay, I'm going to refresh again. Then let's see whether it jumps back in. Da-dun-dun. And remember to press the like button and subscribe. And happy birthday to you if you are having a birthday today. And wow, loads. Yeah, finally updates. So previously we have the geolocation of Russian forces over in Priveni. And let me put this back. And this time around, the Russian mapping have claimed that the area is much bigger. They claim that the advance is actually this big. So a bit more bullish than the DPA's mapping. So this is the claim that the Russian side have mapped. So take it with a pinch of salt. So that's the advance here. These two chunk here. Yeah, these two chunk here is not. Yeah, is a bit arbitrary, which I would say. So and there's one last frontline change, and it's over in Novo Mykolaiv, which is actually a small change here. So this is a deep state UA. The pro-Ukrainian mapping have straightened the front line in this sector here, marking a small change over here. The advance here is very small. It's probably only 200 meters, so not very that significant per se. So that's all. These are all the frontline changes in the past 24 hours. And I want to put this as a background. So, and I'm going to put in the calculator. So let's calculate the total area captured. And Ukrainian in this very eventful day again did not capture a single square kilometers. So it's all Russian captures. So we're going to do some calculation. So Russians yesterday captured 71.92, which was insanely huge. So today, I don't think they're going to be so much, but let's count. 9.2 plus 34.48 plus 15.08 plus 3.29 plus 2.24 plus 5.78 plus 0.08. Oh, that's also quite close. The total area captured is actually 70.15 square kilometers. So I again have to say the past weeks has been lackluster, I would say. So the areas captured was much lesser. And I did mention that there might be this kind of correction that happens. So I feel that this is like corrections where a lot of the underreported frontline changes is now appearing, which is why we are seeing this huge number. So yeah, but it's still massive. So 70 yesterday, 70 plus today, 70 again. I don't think this is going to be the norm, because if this is the norm, then we are looking at a massive collapse of the Ukraine military fighting capability. But I don't think they are at that level yet. I think that they still have fight left, and So no, and the Ukrainian leadership doesn't look like they are in that kind of the kind of time where the military is actually suffering a total collapse. But so I don't think that's the case. So we shall see how this goes. So anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update. And check out the sit rep.